My name is Joyce Della Chiesa, and I'm from Brooklyn, New York. I used to listen to Gene. My mom would say go to bed, and I would get into bed, and I'd have the little radio, and I'd put it down really low, listen to it, and hear those sounds of the night. They were really thrilling for me. The first time I did lay eyes on Gene and Leigh, because I met them simultaneously, is when Ron brought them into my restaurant. I was so excited. I think I was sweating. I was nervous. But he kind of came, they came in a little bit late because I think it was a weekday, and so we were closing up around 10 o'clock. And they came in around 9:30. It was a little bit slow, and he came in and my heart was pounding. And he said, "You don't have to be nervous, Joyce." And just hearing that voice, and from being a kid and being thrilled by all the stories he told, he calmed me down. And just hearing that voice again, and of course Ron was there, and they had great banter going back and forth. And I did. I hit it off with Leigh, and she wasn't threatened, which some people are threatened by other women. I'm sure a lot of people like Gene, and so we became friends, and we would call each other and check in, and then we started to visit each other. And I remember Gene and Leigh came up to our apartment when we lived on Warren Avenue in the South End, and we had a little roof deck, and we just, into the night again was, we talked and talked and talked. And I remember when Gene was at our cathedral making the movie of The Star-Crossed Romance of Josephine Kafnowski. And that was a lot of fun, and our pastor, Father Jim, was, he just thought it was the coolest thing to have Gene Shepherd in the cathedral shooting this movie. So it was fun. So Leigh and I became really close during that shoot, and they had a house in Sanibel Island and invited me to come down, invited us both to come down, and Ron couldn't make it, so I did go, and I spent a great week with them. It was a little overwhelming for me because Gene, of course, loves attention, and anything that you might notice, he was kind of responsible for, no matter who did it. And that was really interesting. And then, of course, Ron and I had visited Leigh and Gene several times at Sanibel subsequent to that. Well, we would just more or less talk at her house because I don't think Gene liked Leigh going out without him. And I don't remember ever being just alone with Leigh in the car going shopping or something like that. Well, she talked about how she would try to guide Gene a little bit without, making it her suggestion. It was very important that it be Gene's idea. He was very out front about that. And so Leigh was very good at kind of directing him, and she was the one who would sit down at the computer or the typewriter and do the work. And he was always his partner in whatever they did. And of course, I think Leigh was also a writer, and she would write things, and then Gene would kind of, he would read it, and then he'd say, "Pippi, that's really good, Pippi. Let's go on from there, and let me read what you have here." And you'd read it, and he goes, "Okay, this is let's do this," and and he would tweak it a little bit, and she would just go ahead and keep typing. And well, I think they were perfect for each other. They were very symbiotic in many, many ways. But I think Gene made Leigh a little nervous sometimes because he would always be on her, and his way of kind of diffusing it would be to call her, "It's okay, Pippi. I know you. We can do better. We're going to move on here." And Leigh, not only was she a lovely woman and funny in her own right, but she was on the quiet side. She was a little quiet, but we ended up having a great rapport. You know what? They never spoke about their children. I knew she had a daughter, and I knew that Gene had a couple of kids, but I don't think they had any communication with them. Leigh may have had some communication with her daughter that I was unaware of, and maybe Gene was too. I just don't know. It's kind of crazy, really, because they would never talk about them, and it was like they never existed.